from not caring about people's opinions.
I'm not worried about whether people like the joke or not, whether people hate it, whether, the press hate it. I'm worried about delivering the jokes correctly.
To calling out hypocrisy.
Well, we're back to offence, aren't we? Just because they're offended by someone being gay, it doesn't mean they're right. You know, it's a strange thing that...
These are the moments where Ricky doesn't care if you're offended.
But it really is that case of people come up and they say, I was offended by that joke. And, my first reaction is, I don't care. Mm-hmm. Like, that doesn't mean anything. You're telling me how you feel. What I want to say why. And I'll explain to them. I'm willing to explain to them why the joke isn't offensive.
Ricky Gervais has been very open about how he feels about offence.
I'm willing to explain why it's not offensive. That often offence comes when people mistake the subject of a joke with the actual target, and they're not necessarily the same, particularly if you deal in taboo subjects, which I do, because I want to go there, because I want to take the audience by the hand and take them through a scary forest.
Even when people hated his jokes, he didn't care.
Yeah, I get a bit stressed.
What are you like with reading reviews of things and like that? Do you bother? Does it bother you?
I don't worry about it. I don't worry about whether people, like it or not. But I did at first, and the first review I ever read from The Office, so I just came into this game, I thought, I hope it does well. The first review, the headline was Summer Stinker.
He also talks about how Twitter plays a big role.
It was summer, and it said things like, Gervais sometimes fluffs his lines. Like I'd have left that in. And I thought, this is going well. Then someone else comes out with a 5-star review, and then it's you get on with it, and you're on to the next thing. No, it doesn't affect me now. And Twitter's made me just realise that nothing matters.
Also, how woke people have made everything an issue.
It's like most of the things you read on the internet is just like walking around reading every toilet wall in the world. Do you know what I mean? It's virtual.
That's an idea for a BBC Three show.
Yeah, Greg James with every toilet wall in the world.
He goes back to the time he hosted the Golden Globes.
It's so as people say, like the Golden Globes, do you get nervous? Are you worried about what people think? You're worried about the backlash? And I'm not worried about any of those things. I'm not worried about whether people like the joke or not, whether people hate it, whether, the press hate it. I'm worried about delivering the jokes correctly. Yeah. That's all I worry about.
It's very clear he is passionate about his job.
It's like taking a penalty. If you score, it doesn't matter what they think of your run-up or the... You know what I mean? Yeah. You scored. So as long as I deliver the joke well, I don't care whether people hate it or gasp or get offended or anything. But you want to do a good job, and that's all you care about, the work.
He gives an accurate analogy of the world today.
Which side of politics do you see as the biggest threat against the freedom of expression today? Is it the left side or the right side?
Well, there's no such thing as a side anymore. It's ridiculous because it goes left and right, and then extreme left, extreme right, extreme left, extreme right. They come round and meet. It's extremism that's the problem.
He sums it up perfectly.
And Twitter amplifies that. If you're mildly conservative on Twitter, you're Hitler. If you're mildly left-wing, you're Trotsky. And if you're a centrist, they both hate you and you're a coward. There is no nuance, there's no argument.
People have become extremists, turning every little thing into a problem.
I think that extremism is threatening everything. And people are liars, and they pretend it's because of what you're saying, but really they just don't want to hear it because you're not on the right side. There's so much hypocrisy and lies, and the more you tell a lie, some people believe it.
On the Piers Morgan show, he addressed his beliefs.
How does your atheism, which you're passionate about, how does that play with your American audience, given that so many people in America are God-fearing people and probably take exception to it?
Well, they shouldn't. We talked about this last time. Why should they take offence that I don't believe in their God or any other God?
He brings up the fact that there are different religions.
Tell me the reasons why you don't believe in all the other gods, and that's the reason I don't believe in yours. And I've got nothing against people believing in God at all, In fact, if it, did make you a kinder person, if you only did good things in his name, then great, but there's the rub.
He also calls out people's hypocrisy.
I see some of these religious fundamentalists saying that they've told their 5-year-old children that if they turn out gay, they will burn in hell. That, to me, is child abuse. That's nothing to do with religion or spirituality. that's child abuse. So that's why I'm passionate when it comes to that.
Peers politics into the conversation.
What do you think of the Republican nomination race, given that some of the candidates clearly position themselves quite deliberately to say anti-gay marriage, all that kind of thing, based on their religious beliefs?
Well, we're back to offence, aren't we? Just because they're offended by someone being gay, it doesn't mean they're right.
He also compares the English culture to the American culture.
The wonderful thing about being between England and America, they are both land of freedom, and criticise them all you want, but know that you're in a place that allows you to criticise it. And that's lucky, you know, and that's great, and that should be cherished. And freedom of speech for me is one of the most important things.
He wraps it up with a valid point.
Even though I don't believe in God, and I don't believe, you know, unlike most religions, I treat all religions the same. I think they're all wrong, not morally wrong, but I don't think there is or could be a God. But if someone said, we're banning religion, I'd march to not have it banned, because it's your right to believe what you want.
He talked about religion in another show.
I don't know if you're affected by the volcanic ash cloud, but I had friends that were stuck all over the world, and they missed weddings and funerals, and they had to put themselves up in a hotel for extra days that they hadn't budgeted for, and they couldn't get their money back because the airlines were saying, no, we can't pay you because the insurance companies won't pay us because they're saying it's an act of God.
Even as an atheist, he talks about religion with knowledge and clarity.
What isn't an act of God? No, if you believe in God, that's sort of a definition of him, isn't it? That he does everything. Isn't that right? Everything is an act of him. He's all-powerful. He's everywhere at once. He invented everything. There was nothing before him. He invented time, everything. He's across it all.
He uses jokes to convey a smart message.
OK, he doesn't miss a trick, and he's not absent-minded. A volcano going off isn't like him going, left the oven on. You know, it's... And who are these insurance companies that can decide what is and isn't an act of God? How do they know, OK? Have they got a hotline to God?
He closes up with a funny bit.
Hello? Could I speak to God, please? Speaking. Oh, I didn't think you'd answer the phone yourself. What do you want? Oh, that volcanic ash cloud. Was that you? Yeah. Yes, that was an act of me, all right.
He goes on a podcast and breaks it down.
People get offended when they mistake the subject of a joke with the actual target.
Yeah.
And they're not necessarily the same thing. You can make jokes about any subject. It depends what the joke is.
Yeah.
There's no rules. You can't joke about this. You can.
You should be able
You just
to.
can.
Yeah.
Okay. And there's nothing sacred.
Well, that's the
really.
point. There's nothing sacred. So
Yeah.
everything should be subject to ridicule.
He also calls out people who always like to judge others.
Yeah, but you shouldn't hurt people's feelings. Well, you can if their feelings are wrong.
Yeah.
You know,
yeah.
if you
It's
don't like
okay.
the facts, don't change the facts, change the feelings.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah.
And also they try and do this thing. Oh, you should never punch down. You should punch up. Well, who's to say what's up and down is?
Yeah. It's a subjective.
So
thing.
you're deciding who's down and who's up. No. You don't get to do that.
He never shies away from saying the truth.
There's this whole thing nowadays about not offending people and people feeling uncomfortable. In the States, is a big thing with sort of target words and safe zones. People don't want to hear a word that they don't like.
How arrogant are you to think that you deserve to go through life with no one ever saying anything that you don't agree with or like?